If I had to define Sonic Unleashed in one word, that word would be passion. I played this game years ago, and I fell in love. I love the story, I love the characters, and I love the gameplay. I can distinctly remember as Sonic ran into the sunset, watching those credits roll and reminiscing on this world adventure. I cried tears of joy. I was a lot younger at the time. It was 2017 and I had never played the game before, experienced it before, really been invested in a Sonic game since 2011. I will always owe Sonic Unleashed a great debt because it truly solidified my love for the Sonic series. But as time went on, I never really found myself replaying the game front to back. I loved the day stages and would speedrun those, but never really immersed myself in the game after my first playthrough. I was finally free of the initial rush that was Sonic Unleashed, which at the time was, to me, practically a brand new Sonic game. And the more I look back, the more criticisms I had about the game's pacing, the story, and especially the Werehog. Just a year ago, I tried to play this game again, and once I got past Optos Act 2, I felt no compulsion to go further. The Werehog felt slow and clunky, so I stopped. Then I made this channel, made new online friends, and all of them, except for one, had more than their fair share of opinions on Sonic Unleashed. So, here we are. Sit back, relax, and let me explain to you why I love, but don't like, Sonic Unleashed. So, let's take it from the top, shall we? Oh, wait, before we continue, hi. If you're new here, my name's Nicholas, but it's Nick for short. And here on YouTube, I do my best to bring my narrative analysis and game design knowledge to some of my favorite series out there. And in case my channel's content didn't already make this obvious, I love the Sonic series. And one of the biggest reasons for that is the music. But sometimes the high-octane electric guitars and pounding drums just aren't quite as relaxing as I wish they were. Luckily, today's sponsor has the solution for all of your auditory relaxation needs. Hotline Sawani is a growing musical talent in the Sonic community with the seemingly endless lo-fi beats of Sonic tunes, each one better than the last. But soothing beats are just a fraction of what he can do. He's produced several fantastic synthwave and EDM-styled remixes of not just Sonic music, but even some Mario and Zelda songs as well. And most excitingly, in celebration of the upcoming release of Sonic Colors Ultimate, Hotline Sawani is releasing 4 brand new remixes of some of Sonic Colors' best songs. And if you're still not convinced, he's hosting a giveaway contest with one lucky winner getting a copy of Sonic Colors Ultimate and will be able to choose his next remix. Needless to say, check out his music here on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, or SoundCloud. And as a sampler, this very video contains some of my favorite tracks he's produced. That being said, on with the video. This video is going to be structured similarly to my previous game analysis video on Sonic and the Black Knight, which means let's run through and analyze what makes the story of Sonic Unleashed work so well, and where its biggest problems lie. Although everyone already knows the story of Sonic Unleashed, I still think it's best if I summarize it and analyze it as we move along. That being said, we open on a menacing sight of Dr. Eggman's large-scale space armada. Something takes him by surprise. Of course, it's the Blue Blur himself, Sonic the Hedgehog. And one detail I absolutely love about this scene is how it presents Sonic as a threat to Eggman. Eggman, just by seeing Sonic on his ships, commands all of his arsenal to attack, armies of egg fighters, every cannon on deck. This is a textbook example of amazing character introduction. It perfectly conveys the antagonist's insane nature, but more importantly establishes the protagonist, the character you will soon be in control of, as a force of nature. From a story perspective, it's an effective way to showcase Sonic as a character, effortlessly taking down hordes of the opposition on top of getting the player excited to replicate his speed and acrobatics in gameplay. Of course, Eggman in his over-the-top nature heads into battle in a large mech, showing he isn't afraid to get his hands dirty. Unfortunately, Sonic's stylish attempts at a tactical retreat don't pan out. He's captured by Eggman's mech. And in a moment that again establishes an extremely important plot element, Sonic turns into his super form. This is cathartic for returning players relishing in a fan-favorite power-up, but also conveys the power the emeralds hold. After chasing Eggman down through space, Sonic says some classic one-liners to further cement his character, and Eggman shows a new side of his personality. A scheming, lying, conniving trickster as he traps Sonic in a machine after he pleads for forgiveness. As Sonic is drained of his power, Eggman takes great pleasure in watching his goals come to fruition, as the planet splits open, revealing Dark Gaia. And another subtle visual cue I love about this cutscene is how the link between Sonic the Werehog and Dark Gaia is established by showing them mirroring each other's movements. Eggman is very happy about this turn of events, explaining how he will harness the power of Dark Gaia and build Eggman Land at last. Sonic, however, is none too happy about his transformation, but before he can fight back, he's launched into space, sent spiraling down to Earth along with the Chaos Emeralds. And it's in this perfect moment we get our title drop, Sonic Unleashed. This cutscene is so perfect. The expressive animation and overall gorgeous visuals are one thing, but the clever cinematography on top of so many little narrative beats that so simply and quickly establish the characters, necessary lore, and the mysterious new villain connected to our main hero, motivating us to uncover the mystery of the Gaia manuscripts and defeat Dr. Eggman, make this cutscene a perfect opening. Upon Sonic's descent, with a little help from a strange green shield breaking his fall, to an extent anyway, Sonic hits the ground face first. Now here's where we meet one of the make or break it aspects of Sonic Unleashed, and that aspect, of course, is Chip. I think his introduction and back and forth with the Werehog is childish but not cringy, and most importantly, it presents a short-term goal for the story. See, Chip can't remember a thing about himself, not even his own name, and so Sonic, both out of kindness and potential guilt about falling on Chip and causing this whole mess, is more than willing to let this new companion tag along. We already know that we have to stop Dr. Eggman and Dark Gaia for sure, but that's a given. So in a large-scale narrative like this one, it's often best to have a coinciding short-term goal to achieve to keep viewers, or in this case players, interested and keep moving forward for a secondary interesting reason. Plus, this is where a much less radical side of Sonic comes out. Sonic in this game, as we'll see, has an attitude, yes, but often only when addressing Eggman, and it's normally very downplayed in favor of a more stern, heroic, get-to-the-point portrayal of the character as far as combat and do-gooding goes. But when just being himself, disconnected from danger, Sonic Unleashed interpretation is far more laid back and friendly, willing to strike up a conversation with a stranger just to be nice, and make new friends left, right, and center. Personally, I do prefer the Black Knight route, but this version of the character is a close second for me, because I believe it still retains the core values and essence of the character. Back to the story itself. After the sun comes up and Sonic returns to his normal state, the new duo heads into town, and after seeing an oh-so-delicious Sundae Supreme, Sonic gives his new buddy the name Chip, which Chip is very fond of the moniker. The two ask around town, but no one seems to know a thing about Chip. As the sun sets, Sonic transforms back into the Werehog, realizing that his transformation is linked to the time of day. On top of that, he has stretchy arms, which personally I think is a super cool addition to his moveset, especially for this top-heavy design. But going forward, they find Tails under attack and swiftly rescue him. Getting his best friend up to speed, they head over to the continent of Spagonia to find Tails' associate, Professor Pickle, which, might I say, is just a fantastic character detail. It shows off one thing Tails desperately needs more of, and that's independence. It tells the audience that Tails has a life of his own and pursues his love of science and knowledge by collaborating with the scientific community, and that is a great place for his character. But of course, Eggman captured Professor Pickle, leading to a trip to Missouri in which they break Pickle out of there in no time. Back in his study, the good professor tells them about the cycle of light and dark Gaia's millennia-long slumber and eventual rise to destroy and rebuild the planet, and the only way to put the planetary pieces back together is by restoring the Chaos Emeralds at Gaia temples. Back in Missouri, Eggman isn't finished, leading to Sonic having to intervene, and after a boss battle, he and Chip restore the Emerald's power and return a piece of the planet. And here's where the story really starts to lose steam for me. Now, at no point do I think Unleashed has a bad story, but you remember how I said in a huge-scale story like this you need something interesting, a short-term goal to keep you motivated? Well, the game attempts to replace Chip's memory quest with a standard road trip formula. A road trip formula has some serious potential for a Sonic story, but unfortunately, in going down that route, the main plot comes to a screeching halt. Sonic Unleashed has about an hour's worth of full-blown immersive animated cutscenes, and about half of them are in the story we've covered so far, but the latter half don't show up until Adabat, which, to put into context, this game can last anywhere from 4-ish to 10-ish hours, depending on how you play. So if all that story is at the beginning and the end, what's the middle substance? Well, that's my problem. There isn't any. About 2/3 of the total Sonic Unleashed experience is in that middle chunk of the game, and unfortunately, there is nothing to keep you going story-wise. There are a few good cutscenes, including Eggman and even Amy, who's great as always here, and she even sets up an internal conflict for Sonic hating and being ashamed of his Werehog form, but it's never addressed after its introduction, and the only argument you can make as far as him coming to terms with it is the fact that he gets stronger in combat, which is a weak and borderline baseless argument considering in all games you get stronger as time goes on. Every temple normally has a cute cutscene before or after a boss battle though. Specifically, I love the cutscene after the Dark Phoenix boss fight, because the way Sonic is just so over Chip's overactive self is a great dynamic that communicates to the audience without words how much closer they've become as friends. But that is all there is, and as a result, Chip has zero presence throughout the majority of the game, which is extremely problematic considering Chip is supposed to be the emotional center of this journey. Regaining his memory is a task dropped as quickly as it was introduced, and instead of Chip slowly realizing his true identity and purpose because of Sonic being there for him, it's randomly and so anticlimactically thrown into the story before the final level. But let's actually talk about that part of the story, which, again, let me remind you, the story stops after the 3rd main location and doesn't pick up until the final 7th location. As Sonic and Chip approach the final temple, Chip tells Sonic that he feels scared, and he's not sure why. Although Sonic does look concerned, they still press on. Upon restoring the final 7th Chaos Emerald, Chip suddenly feels a pull to the temple itself and is enveloped in a bright light. Chip then emerges from the temple, telling Sonic that he knows who he is. He knows everything. And this scene is so great, but also so empty to me. When Chip tells Sonic of his responsibilities as Light Gaia and attempts to leave on his own, Sonic stops him and delivers one of the most simple yet thought-provoking lines in the entire series.
Do I need a reason to want to help out a friend? Thanks, Sonic.
It is such a character-defining moment for Sonic. It cements his characterization perfectly. And another thing, whenever Sonic assumes Chip helped him stay in control of his Werehog form and Chip denies that notion, claiming it was all Sonic, that, although very loosely, could be interpreted as Sonic overcoming his doubt established earlier. However, I still don't think it's effective if that's what they were going for, because this is never a problem in the story. But the overarching issue here is that this isn't supposed to be all about Sonic. This is supposed to be Chip's moment to shine, and although his charm from the start of the game finally shines through once more, it reigns hollow to me. When Chip reminisces and describes all the fun he's had, I don't feel anything, because yes, as a player, I've experienced the world this game has to offer, but Chip did not. He barely had any presence throughout the majority of the game, and he was far too focused on food than actually experiencing the culture as a character, let alone experiencing it with his friend Sonic. And due to that very reason, although I as a Sonic fan have a predetermined investment in this story and thus enjoyed it a lot, especially in this most recent playthrough for this video, that wasn't because of the story's quality, but because I went out of my way to explore the world around me. Yes, that of course is part of the game, but as far as the actual narrative and its plot is concerned, it's very poorly paced and not nearly enough time is dedicated to fleshing out its characters. I have no idea why they didn't just make each temple slowly unlock Chip's past. They could have strengthened Sonic and Chip's friendship by having Sonic encourage Chip to embrace the magic of the temples and slowly allow Chip to become more independent and mature. All in a culmination of Chip unlocking the last of his memories and his true purpose as Light Gaia, which wouldn't have been possible if Sonic didn't show Chip how to have fun and experience the world around you. But unfortunately, that's not what we got. So let's move on to the last chapter of this story. Sonic and Chip travel to the newly built Eggman Land. After busting up the place, the Werehog gets an excellent and climactic send-off against the Prototype 1, and when Dark Gaia rips the last of the Werehog out of Sonic, it's a sight to behold. Our hero frozen still, telling Chip to run out of selflessness, followed by Chip summoning a huge magic golem is just freaking awesome. One thing I absolutely love about this boss fight is how you don't immediately turn into Super Sonic, and I feel like being base Sonic adds to the climactic feeling of the battle, which is further showcased whenever you eventually do become Super Sonic and everything becomes even more climactic. And as the battle ensues, we have some seriously amazing cinematography, in both the always breathtaking CGI cutscenes, but also in the in-game animations as well, and this line is probably in my top 3 lines of dialogue Sonic has ever spoken.
Time for the big finale!
With the benefit of hindsight, I view it as a send-off to an era of Sonic. Considering this game was possibly the last chance to make another Sonic game after the 06 disaster, this truly does radiate the aura of Sonic's biggest, most grand battle of his life, and I greatly appreciate that. Of course, after the defeat of Dark Gaia, Chip must rest along with his opposite, and as Sonic is launched to the surface, Chip takes one last look at his friend before he goes dormant once more. And as we see Sonic crash onto the surface, very much like how the game began, it brings everything full circle. Plus, let's be honest, Chip's bracelet should have become part of Sonic's main design. Lastly for the story, I can't do this part justice with words. It encapsulates everything that this story was trying to be, and I respect what it was trying to be. I can't say I fully enjoy this game's story. I love the start, the story in the middle is non-existent, and I love the finale. Overall, I think it's just okay, with a few tremendous highs that are even further elevated as a Sonic fan, but it's mainly on a steady line of okay to good for me. But I'm still left wanting, because the middle chunk of the story is what makes the finale so great, but this game wastes all of that potentially interesting development, and unfortunately, I will forever feel Sonic Unleashed could be better. It could have been great as far as its linear narrative went. And now I have to address this, because I know everyone will yell at me if I don't. There is an argument to be made that the real point of Sonic Unleashed is to be experiencing the different cultures and truly taking part of this world adventure, and I agree, that definitely is something that the game tries to nudge you towards doing. Heck, this last playthrough is what really made me love these locations on a deeper level, and this is probably my favorite incarnation of Sonic's world as far as the games go. But even though I agree, that's not an excuse for poor pacing. I think the middle should have had more specific moments to experience each culture, and that's truly what the developers' intentions were. Although experiencing the side content enhanced the overall gameplay experience and made me as a player feel more attached to this world, it does absolutely nothing as far as developing any of our main characters, and so, although it improved my experience with the game overall, it doesn't directly help with the story in my opinion. With the gameplay, geez, let's talk about the Werehog gameplay. I've already made a Werehog video and I stand by every word, but here on my newest playthrough, I did a few things to stack the odds in my favor. I gave Sonic the Hedgehog almost no experience throughout the entire game and spent every ounce of it on the Werehog. I already knew the level design from the previous playthroughs, which made them a breeze to blast through. And lastly, as a Sonic fan, or just someone interested in this game, I have seen countless Werehog defense videos telling me how to play the game in ways the game never pushes you to play. And with all that in mind, I had a great time. I'm not too above myself to have several different viewpoints. The Werehog was most definitely fast, fluid, and had so many over-the-top damaging combos that annihilated the enemies in my path. But I'm not going to pretend like it's flawless. I see people left, right, and center feeling the exact same way about the Werehog as I did in my original video on the topic, especially on their first playthrough. But then again, on other people's first playthrough, they absolutely love the game, and I think that giant gap of opinion on the first playthrough of this game is because of one serious design flaw. And that flaw is because whether or not you enjoy the game is so up in the air. For example, on my first playthrough of the game, I gave every ounce of my XP to the Hedgehog stats and treated the Werehog as secondary because obviously I would want to have more fun with a style I liked more. I had no serious investment in the Werehog's gameplay, so I never felt the need to prioritize his upgrades because mashing X and Y, although slower and more brain dead, was a more than effective way to play through the entire game. And the reason that strategy works is because so rarely, if ever, is a room of enemies diverse enough to necessitate fancy combos and flashy attacks. So if the X and Y combos are more than effective, what entices the player to upgrade what they don't like? It's like any other skill tree. You upgrade what you like and leave the other stuff for later. Obviously, this thought process doesn't apply to everybody, but lots of people like myself play games like that. It's a serious conflict of interest that easily would have been remedied by better enemy design or straight up getting rid of the manual upgrade system. A better handling of the XP, in my opinion, would have been having Sonic the Hedgehog earn his XP in day stages and those all go to his skill tree. Meanwhile, the Werehog gained all of his XP from his stages and those upgraded him exclusively. That way you have a seamless upgrading system that eliminates the potential issue that ruined my first playthrough of this game. It provides a constant sense of accomplishment and it entices you to get better at the game because the better you perform, the more XP you'll get and then the more you'll level up. And speaking of upgrades, whenever Sonic unlocks a new combo, I think it would have been great if the game actually showed you a preview of what the combo can do as well as the button input whenever you first unlocked it. That way it would have visually represented the player, alright, here's a new tool for your arsenal and here's how you execute it. With just those two very simple changes, I have no doubt Sonic Unleashed reception as a game would have been far better because it would have more easily allowed players to see the combos that they're unlocking and thus perform them in combat, and secondly, it probably would have cut stage length in half. Outside of the combat, the Werehog's control I felt was very reliable, with my only real issue being his climbing abilities. The green reticle that indicates you can grab onto a pole or ledge is far too slow, and only tapping the grab button often leads to many cheap deaths. I almost never used the reticle because I just held down the grab button and prayed, and luckily it worked most of the time, but if you're scared of dying and rely solely on the reticle, odds are it'll mess you up. And lastly, the overall level design itself is incredibly bland to me. Although it has some truly captivating set pieces, the overall simplistic structure of the platforming leaves a lot to be desired, and when most levels have this same architecture, their length feels even longer than what they actually are. And even with some of the shorter levels, I don't feel the level design is intriguing enough to last the whole 15 to 20 minutes and keep it interesting. Not to mention, the Werehog pulls off some insane acrobatics and cutscenes, and yet his maneuverability off the ground and gameplay leaves much to be desired, especially whenever you see what he's capable of versus what you can actually do in gameplay. And I don't need to say it, but I'm going to anyway. The battle theme in this game is overplayed and super annoying. Having unique battle themes per country would have been a much better way to go about it. I just feel the Werehog could have been handled a lot better personally, and the only reason I did have genuine fun is because I've played Unleashed before and forced circumstances to be in my favor. As for my preferred style of play, let's talk about the boost gameplay. I love the boost gameplay, and this is probably my favorite execution of the formula. The speed here is unparalleled in my opinion, feeling easily faster than any other mainline boost title in the franchise. The level design is filled with tons of different pathways, and to be frank, I love the challenge. I never die in Sonic Generations, but if you mess up in Sonic Unleashed, you pay the price. Levels often demand split-second decision-making that expects players to keep up with the blistering speed, and if you mess up, you die. But on the other hand, I do view this as a bit of a problem. As a Sonic fan, I've got this because I've played the game before and overall I love the boost gameplay, but to newcomers, it will undoubtedly take some adjusting to. Although I love the challenge, I will admit on your first playthrough, it does feel more like trial and error rather than actually improving your skill at the game. As for Sonic's upgrade like the wall jump, stomp, and air boost, I do think that their pacing in the game is a little strange whenever you acquire them. For example, you get the stomp maneuver very early on, and then a long portion of the game goes by, and then all of a sudden you get both the wall jump jump and Lightspeed dash practically at the same time. I don't know, it just was a little off to me. But I'd be foolish to not present another crucial issue with this game's pacing. It's ironic how the franchise about speed constantly can't pace itself. But back to the point, which is, medals in this game are entirely counterintuitive to the design. Yes, for the Werehog it fits, but the day stages are so blisteringly fast that getting sun and moon medals is something that always flies in the face of the gameplay style, which is a large chunk of the game. Well, more like 23% to be exact, but that's not the point. I can't go one playthrough without falling behind by Jungle Joyride's day stage. I was fine for every other medals level quota, but next thing I know, 26 more sun medals, and that's frankly absurd. Every time I play this game, all momentum stops right here towards the ending. As for the other little stuff in the game that I have an opinion on, but not really an analysis on, I do not like the tornado stages, and I really do like the hub worlds. They add so much atmosphere, and it's great for both chatting with townspeople and finding stages. But moving past just the gameplay and story, let's talk about everything else. This game easily has the best presentation of any mainline Sonic title to date. As mentioned before, this was thought by the developers to more likely than not be the last Sonic game they'd ever make, and so they decided to go out with a bang. This aesthetic is phenomenal, and how it perfectly combines the realism present in countless Sonic games, but then cartoonifies it so elegantly that even with the more cartoonish style, not a shred of detail was lost in the process. The environments are detailed gorgeously, with expert model construction working in tandem with some of the cleanest and most detailed textures I've ever seen in a video game. The humans fit so naturally next to Sonic and Eggman that it adds an important sense of believability that this is a world Sonic and humans realistically inhabit together, and it fits so well. Speaking of meshing realism with wackiness, the art design for Dr. Eggman's mechs in this game is probably my favorite look in the entire series. It's a great compromise between the more traditional robot mechs and classic badniks. And the effects on Sonic exude lightning-fast speed, and the other particle effects in general further immerse you into this world. And the cutscenes are such a treat, and truly make the Werehog one of my favorite designs in the entire series. The fight against the Dark Phoenix, or any boss battle for that matter, shows the ferocity and brute strength the Werehog has, and watching him unleash it upon his enemies is absolute greatness. And that same quality is present in all of the cutscenes, for every character. The in-game animations are great as well. They all feel natural, impactful, acrobatic, they cover it all. As for voice acting, this is the 4Kids cast at their best. Jason Griffith has never sounded so comfortable in the role of Sonic the Hedgehog, and Mike Pollock is always great as Dr. Eggman, as well as Lisa Ortiz being the perfect fit for Amy Rose. And the music, this is easily one of my top 3 favorite Sonic soundtracks of all time. As for its specific placement on that list, I'm not sure because there are just so many great OSTs in this series, but this is without a doubt the soundtrack I listen to the most outside of the game itself. The hub themes are so relaxing and chill, I turn them on anytime I need to unwind. The level tracks are amazing and get me hyped for my next workout session, and those night stage levels are so soothing on the ears, they make for some excellent background music for doing chores or writing a script. This is truly a great soundtrack, video game or otherwise, and easily one of Otani's best works. So, with all that in mind, what does the pretentious title of this video actually mean? Well, allow me to answer that question before I close things up. I love Sonic Unleashed. I love its ambition in almost every aspect of its design. I love its fast-paced day stages and exhilarating Werehog combat. And I love the fact that it brought me so much joy over this last week, falling in love with a Sonic game all over again. With that said, however, I don't like Sonic Unleashed. I don't like how the story is half-baked in a lot of areas. I don't like how the Werehog can either be extremely fun or a slog due to the game's poor design choices. And I don't like how so many aspects of what make this game great are hidden behind layers of optional content. Let me quickly elaborate on that last one. If you talk to every townsperson, you're going to feel immersed in this world, I'm certain of it. Same goes for the effect that the extra acts have per zone, but since it's optional, the main quest doesn't really treat these locations as anything more than different decorated levels instead of living places with deeper culture to explore. It reigns hollow in my opinion. I may have gone out of my way to play the different acts and experience the culture, but it doesn't really feel like Sonic and Chip did. And again, the Werehog is just frustrating, because I'm sure that any fan of games could really get into the gameplay style, but unfortunately, based on very specific ways that different gamers play games, to some, the Werehog is much needed levity for the boost stages, and to others, it's nothing more than a giant slog. And that's not because either side is bad at games, it's simply because the Werehog does not communicate what makes it so great because of little design choices holding it all back. Even with all that, I still do love this game. I love Sonic Unleashed so much, but I can't bring myself to recommend it to a general non-Sonic fan because of all these prerequisites to having fun in the game. I'm of the opinion that most people who like Sonic Unleashed are likely Sonic fans. The public perception of this game is not as highly praised as people in the community hold it to, and I think there's a reason for that. I can't speak for everyone, but there are tons of old fans who didn't like the game at first, but now with all the new information that's coming out, they're seeing what makes Sonic Unleashed so great underneath. And people who are just playing the game for the first time have already most likely seen all that information on how to make the game great, so getting into the game is easier now than ever. But either way, that's because outside sources are telling you what makes the game so great and how to find that greatness, not because the game properly communicated it to you. Let's try to remember that the general public didn't really latch onto this game. Its reviews were not that great. They were mid at best, and even very negative in the worst case scenario. And that doesn't make their opinions on this game wrong. In fact, they probably just fell victim to the many design flaws that I pointed out in this video. Mainly, the people that hold Sonic Unleashed in such high regard are the people in the fanbase that are still talking about this irrelevant game 10 years after its release. And again, that's not a bad thing. That doesn't make your opinion any less valid. It just shows that, let's be real here, if you like something, regardless of what it is, you're gonna go back to it, regardless of if you really liked it or not. Going back to give something that you didn't love a second chance and then discovering that you really do love it now isn't a bad thing. In cases like this, it really does show that, yeah, there's some really great stuff in Sonic Unleashed that we didn't appreciate back then. And as a fan, I really do appreciate those things. I love those things. But as a critic, I can't bring myself to say that this is an absolutely great game that everyone must play. In fact, I really just think that it's good for Sonic fans. Of course, I can't speak for anybody, it's just in my own personal opinion, I do believe that this game's target demographic is Sonic fans and not so much the general audience nowadays. And I know, in Essay 101, you're not told to two sides an issue or be wishy-washy, but I think I've made my personal opinions about Sonic Unleashed as clear as I could. So, in summary, play the games you want to play, and don't play the games you don't enjoy. If you love Sonic Unleashed, good on you, and if you hate it, then you have no obligation to give it another shot. There's a lot of games in this franchise, and I'm sure that you'll find one that you enjoy, and if you don't, who cares? You can like the character, not like anything else. And with all that in mind, I just want to thank you. Thank you for listening to why I love, but don't like, Sonic Unleashed.